Let's talk some Oregon Ducks recruiting. After Dan Lanning locked in with a brand new contract, now it's time to go recruit. I mean, not that Lanning ever stops recruiting, but this weekend, coming off that newly inked deal, number one quarterback Jared Curtis is in Eugene for a very special visit. We got Max Torres from Scoop Duck on the show. We're going to go behind the scenes this important visit. But before we get going, Oregon fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruit channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right, let's bring in Max Torres from Scoop Duck. And Max, I was thinking about this Jared Curtis visit. It very well could be the last face-to-face contact that Curtis has with Oregon and the staff. What do you think the Ducks need to accomplish this weekend?
I think with this recruitment, you have to lean into your body of work and your resume. A big talking point, of course, has been the work that Oregon has done with quarterbacks in recent years, especially under Will Stein, who also got a little bit of a contract extension on the heels of that Lanning news. So I think that's a great development. You want to be able to sell to whatever degree you're able to that he's going to be here when Jared Curtis potentially comes to Oregon. Yeah. And just look, I guess you could compare what Oregon and Georgia have done at the quarterback position in recent years. Not that Oregon is necessarily one to negatively recruit another team, but it does feel like Oregon has the edge at quarterback right now, at least in recent years, of course, with two Heisman finalists and Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel at the quarterback position. So I think that's great. And then you also have to obviously win over the family. And I think that's going to be a crucial component here, wherever Curtis ends up. But when you're battling distance and being all the way on the West Coast, you got to win over the family for sure if you want to get that commitment.
Yeah, is that why you think Jared Curtis is the only recruit on campus in Eugene this weekend?
I think it's certainly part of it. That has to be by design for this Oregon staff, so they were able to go one-on-one with him every day, kind of make this a tailor-made visit to whatever he wants it to be. I've certainly heard that from other sources I've spoken with in the past on Oregon recruiting and kind of how that was part of what they did with DJ Pickett when they were still recruiting him super heavily out of Florida. We know he ended up at LSU, but I think that being able to go one-on-one with him this weekend, just go all in too, not just one-on-one, but all in on their recruiting efforts with really their top quarterback target in the 2026 class here. Of course, we know about Ryder Lyons as well, but It does seem like I get the impression that Curtis is the bigger priority between the two. And I think that's because he would be getting to college sooner than Lyons would.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of factors that go into any decision. You hit on a couple important ones. You got family, you got QB production, but nobody really knows how much a prospect weights each one. So that being said, how much do you think location factors in? Because Nashville, it's only about 3.5 hours from Athens. It's a lot further to Eugene, but how much is location playing into this decision?
I think it's playing a relatively significant role. The thing that we have to look at here, Josh, is that distance could mean something different now in March than it does in December, because you can commit to a school, be like, oh yeah, I'm all on board, no issues. And then once it comes time to put pen to paper, you're feeling the weight of that distance. You're feeling the weight of missing mom's cooking or whatever it might be from home. So I think that it certainly factors into it here. I know an interesting part with NIL discussion and some of the things that I've learned with Oregon's recruiting efforts. I know every school does this, but for Oregon in particular, I think they do have to have that conversation about how often are my parents going to be able to come out to these games? How often can I see my family? And obviously that helps with the Big Ten move because they'll be playing closer to Nashville, right? If you look at Curtis as a Duck. But I think that distance certainly plays a factor here, and it's no shock, it's no surprise, nothing new that Oregon does not have that on their side here with another elite guy from the Southeast.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they brought the family in all by themselves this weekend, to give them a tour so they could get comfortable with the city of Eugene, not just the school. So we'll see how that goes. What's next for Curtis? Is he going to take an unofficial visit to Georgia next, and then those planned officials are going to go down?
That's what it looks like is the plan for Curtis and his camp, is going out to Athens for a trip almost immediately after, from what I've been able to tell, this trip to Oregon, a multi-day unofficial visit. I think that's one of the details that kind of piques my interest here
Mm-hmm.
with Curtis is that I think it's like a 4 or 5 day unofficial visit out to Eugene. Definitely more than your typical two. So I
Yeah.
think that's the case for Georgia as well. And I think that would also lend credence to this belief, this growing belief that Jared Curtis may not make it to those official visits scheduled to Oregon and Georgia in June, and really makes us think that a decision could be coming sooner rather than later. So sounds like he'll be wheels up back to Athens after this trip to Eugene. And
Mm-hmm.
for Oregon fans and the Oregon staff, they hope that they lead when he leaves campus.
Yeah, and I'm not nearly as close to this recruitment as you are, as Rusty Menzel is, but just watching it from afar, it definitely feels like it's going to be these two unofficial visits and then a decision. I think, this is just my opinion, I think we get a decision from Jared Curtis within the next 3 weeks, I would say, maybe. Are you getting that feeling?
Yeah, it could be. I think that these recruitments have a way of speeding themselves up, especially with Curtis being the only guy on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these schools, I'm sure, want to be getting this wrapped up sooner rather than later. Of course, you're not going to slow play a recruitment like this just because it's such a crucial position. But that's definitely the growing feeling here is that it seems like a decision is coming sooner rather than later for Curtis. And that would honestly help all parties involved here. I don't think anyone necessarily gains anything in particular by drawing this one out.
All right. Hypothetically speaking, Curtis is on that Ducks commit list before the summer. Who are the top targets right now at wide receiver that you think this Curtis commitment could help with if it goes down that way?
The wide receiver position is an interesting one to look at right now, especially with regard to Jared Curtis's recruitment and new wide receiver coach Ross Douglas coming
Mm-hmm.
over from Syracuse. So it seems like we're still kind of evaluating the board here, Josh, but the main names that you got to watch, of course, at the top of the list is Chris Henry Jr. out of Mater Dei here in Southern California. I'm well aware of him, but spent a lot of time around that program. Also at Mater Dei is Caden Dixon Wyatt, who's originally from Northern California. I thought that was a big part of why they were in such a good spot under Junior Adams, who's also from Northern California, but we know that he's over with the Cowboys now. And then the other third name that I think is certainly worth watching here is New York wide receiver Messiah Hampton, who was named On3's MVP at the Under Armour Miami camp not too long ago. So he is really showing that he can hold his own with anyone. He was also the Buffalo Bills representative at the Nike Next Ones event in New Orleans before the Super Bowl. So this is a guy who has on numerous occasions, 7-on-7, camp circuit, whatever it is, he's shown that he can hold his own against the best in the country. And that relationship with Ross Douglas is certainly carrying over from his time at Syracuse, also out there in the Northeast. So I'm just excited to see how this board grows and evolves, because Chris Henry Jr. has kind of said in no uncertain words that as long as Heartline's there in Columbus, he's solid with the Buckeyes, but that doesn't mean Oregon's going to stop trying.
Yeah, we saw what Oregon pulled in last season at the wide receiver position. Let's see what they can do this year if they land Jared Curtis. I got high expectations. All right. One last thing before I let you go. One of the themes on this channel has been Oregon versus USC on the recruiting trail. They are just duking it out. And I saw that offensive tackle Cody Green, the elite offensive tackle who's committed to Oregon out of Mater Dei High School, is setting up a visit to USC this summer. So with USC's kind of surge in recruiting right now, is Green going to be a tough one for Oregon to hold on to?
I think you could say he's going to be a tough one to hang on to, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm worried about a big flip here. Of course, USC is going to get him on campus because he's local, he's at
Sure.
Mater Dei. Lincoln Riley and the staff know how important it is to get back into Mater Dei. That's why we're seeing all this smoke around Tamuhini Tapui, the Oregon defensive line commit, that is giving the Trojans a big look here in the 2026 class. But Green's been committed to Oregon since August, and this staff has done a tremendous job with the relationships in this recruitment, and his love for Oregon really dates back quite a while. So the Ducks are going to have to hold off the Trojans and the Longhorns here, with Texas also getting an official visit. But right now, I think he's one of those commitments that I think is most solid with the Ducks, and a big part of that is because of the body of work under Alik Terry, and that speaks for itself. I think it's a different situation in LA right now with the offensive line compared to Oregon, but that doesn't mean that Oregon's going to have to do anything different than what they've been doing. You got to just keep your pedal to the metal and keep recruiting him as if he's uncommitted.
All right. Well, this weekend, it's all about number one quarterback Jared Curtis. And Duck fans, we want to hear from you. Drop your predictions. Where is Jared Curtis going to commit? Let us know.